I'd like to call this meeting of the Belmond-Klemme Board of Directors to order. And who is going to do the roll call? Is that you, Teresa?
Belmont.
Debbie Burke?
Yes.
Karen Bachman? Gary Berkman?
Yes.
Rick McDonald?
Yes.
Teresa Musselman?
Yes.
Marcus Lichten?
Yes.
Jen Thornton?
Okay. Well, by the hair of our chinny chin chin, we have the quorums. Welcome to the visitors. I don't think anyone has asked to speak yet.
No, we can ask.
Anybody?
Somebody there?
All right. Is there a motion to approve or amend the agenda?
I motion to approve.
Mark?
Before you vote, I'd like to point out that this is the first time we've used a consent agenda. So you're all comfortable with what's listed in the consent agenda? There's nothing we need to move down to another part of the agenda? Okay, and I've got two changes, or actually additions, to the consent agenda. The seniority list. You've got a paper copy at your places, and that was updated and revised with the support of our Education Association just this afternoon, about 3:30 today. And we had just one little oversight in terms of our coaches. We've already had 2 games in junior high, and we haven't approved the junior high basketball coach. So you have a recommendation for Jody Turner to be junior high boys and junior high girls basketball coach. So I'll ask you to consider that as you decide to vote on consent agenda.
And that's a change from, is it Jericho?
Actually, Jody's a rollover. I included her in that initial burst for everybody in the winter. Oversight, I didn't get that done. Kira is the additional position that we lost from Wendy Mines last year.
Got it.
And Wendy's going to the high school level.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda. Is there a second? Was there a second?
Yeah, I second.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, agenda is approved. We have consent items of the minutes, the financial statements, the bills, early graduation for the students that were listed, the 2080 contract with North Iowa Area Community College, the at-risk dropout prevention grant application, the employee seniority lists, and the employment. Do we have a motion to approve the consent?
We do.
I do. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mark? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent items have passed. Reports from the Industrial Technology Program and Student Garages from Mark Schmidt.
We have a little bit different class scheme this year. We did a block schedule for a carpentry class, and where we run carpentry first quarter of the year, and then we are doing a masonry class the second quarter of the year. And it works out a whole lot better doing a block schedule, especially with the masonry, because you can't throw away mortar in 42 minutes of the class period. And one of the major projects that they did for the carpentry section was do a scale model. Now I gave students the opportunity to, they could draw it using the CAD program. Some of the students I've had in CAD before. They could draw it manually if they wanted to. We have 2 different garages that they chose to make. One has a truss roof, which Zeb had to learn how to make trusses. And Zach and Tyson, they chose to stick frame a roof, so they had to learn that different technique to stick frame a roof. There were 6 kids involved in this first go-around of class this first semester, and there's a few more in the second semester. this is the first exposure for most of these students to any type of framing or any type of construction. Right now, we're past this point, and we're into the masonry, and
Yes.
I walk around like Big Ben all the time because I'm always in a cloud of dust, whether it's masonry dust. I was laying block in the shop tonight, working on our workstations. Now, something unique about the masonry class, and if you happen to have looked on the Facebook page of the school district, there's a picture of our masonry class in there. I posed the question to Midland Concrete in Clear Lake, and they were a longtime supplier of mine when I was in business for myself. And they, I posed the question a little over a year ago, hey, would you ever be interested in helping us out with doing a masonry class? And to my delight, they came back and said, yeah, we'll give you materials and equipment to do so. And it also got some attention of the Masonry Institute of Iowa and the BAC, Bricklayers and Allied Crafts Union in Des Moines, number 3. And lo and behold, we are the only institution other than the Bricklayers Union in the state of Iowa teaching anything in masonry, period.
Wow.
And I asked, Kirkwood was the last school, the community college that it went by the wayside, and I asked, what happened? Why did it go away? Because it's a high-paying trade, very skilled trade. As students can tell you, it looks a lot easier than it is.
Oh, yeah.
But I asked what happened. Well, you don't have people in education that are taught or have the skill set to lay brick and block. I can say from my experience, I learned on the job site and have taken it from there. And unless you give kids opportunities, they're never going to know whether those occupations are there or whether they like them or not. What I've already found out though, in just, we're 4.5 weeks into this with the block scheduling, is 1 quarter is not enough time to cover what I can cover. And I'm just talking basics. This week, and let me back up a little bit. Masonry Institute of Iowa has come up and they put a presentation on history of masonry and what's happening in the state and different occupations. Thursday, the Bricklayers Union, their training coordinator and the head of their union is coming up to also put on a presentation, and they want to work with the kids in the shop. And then on, a little later in the month, or right before Thanksgiving, spec mix. And a lot of people may or may not have heard of spec mix. Spec mix is, they own the market for mortar and masonry materials, as far as in the mortar portion of masonry materials. And they do, they sponsor this Bricklayer 500, fastest block competitions. These are national competitions, and they always, the finals are always in Las Vegas. And it's kind of exciting that they've taken notice also. So they're going to come up and do a presentation on the products that they provide and what can they do for us. And all of these entities have kind of, I've got to see through the email conversations amongst all of us. They're all kind of sitting back because they'd like to see this happen in more schools in the state. And they're trying to figure out, how do we make that happen? So they're kind of watching what we're doing here. And they're wanting to help. And it's been fantastic because I didn't expect the help that I've received so far. The union is a little more hesitant because they want to protect themselves, but they're willing to come up and see what we're doing and give suggestions. Said they'll suggest, but they won't share a whole lot in terms of training. So that's kind of what's going on new in industrial ed this year, and I'm hoping we can take it a little further in the future years. I was surprised because I had just surveyed my students from last year and asked how many would be interested in taking a class like this, and 14 of them had stood up and said, yeah. And that wasn't surveying the whole student body. And it's a very hands-on class. You can ask the students that we haven't spent a lot of time in the classroom. It's holding a trowel, learning what that's about, and learning how to spread mortar, and they're just starting to play some brick now.
And that's the best thing about these classes is, some kids aren't necessarily cut out for college and all that stuff. I mean, me being one of those people, just now as a senior, I'm thinking about what I want to go out and do, and I've always been in agricultural classes and these carpentry classes, and I've realized that, to make a good living, you don't have to go to college. I mean, from freshman year, where are you going to college, and what are you going to do when you get older? You have to go to college, get a good job. That's not true. There is a lot of money to be made in hands-on type deals. You just got to be willing to work hard, and that's something that's phasing out, especially in these masonry places. Most of these guys are really old, and they're starting to phase themselves out. And I wasn't looking at you when I said old, all right? But they're all getting out of there, and you can make a lot of money. You just have to work very hard, and that's something that I think a lot of students in this school don't understand. And that's where these classes come in and help, and that's why we kind of need to advertise a little bit more and get them going. And I know it's kind of hard because a lot of kids aren't interested in it, but I'm sure there's a lot of kids that if they tried it, they'd enjoy it. Because it's easier for a lot of students to learn through hands-on technique, doing stuff, and just sitting in front of it.
That's fair.
Yeah, Mark, does the Bricklayers Union provide the apprentice, journeyman, craftsman, the genre of teaching for people who want to work through the union?
Yes. It's very much like the electrical union where you are hired, you're a union employee, and you go through their training.
They will teach you to be reach those achievement levels. Okay.
Correct.
Mark, I have a question for you.
Sure.
For lack of a better term, would it be possible for us to be like a hub site for this kind of training where other schools came here? And, not to overload you, but like if you could say, I would take 2 people from, each area school if they wanted to. Is that something we're looking at in the future, maybe?
How would you like me to comment on that? Because in light of yesterday, we went over to Eagle Grove to the Trade Academy.
Okay.
There were 3 of us that went over there and kind of looked at what they were doing. I think if we could draw from some area, because I realize the first year we may see, in a class like this, we may see an influx of more people, and then it may dive off a little bit. And I think it is something that we could draw. It's just getting the word out there and letting people know that, hey, we've got something going on here that's good, and why don't you come take a look at it?
Well, I just remember back in the day, and you might have been on faculty then, when we would send kids up to Garner to an automotive thing for the morning, and then they would come back. And
Right.
I'm just wondering if that sort of thing is possible.
I think it really is a possibility. I think, I'm not sure how I can accomplish everything. But I think it's a very viable thing. And I want to take the students also during this year, and we have some projects we'd like to do. We'd like to redo the welding booths, add more welding booths in the welding area. We have nice new welders, we just don't have the infrastructure to use them. And that's something that we could do. I think we're waiting on some architect plans, and I've also thought about, some signage around the school. In front of the elementary, out in front of the high school, why not have masonry signs instead of the aluminum poles with vinyl printed board? Let's dress some things up. And, I'm the type of person, because of what I've done occupationally, I walk around the school and I'm looking at the brickwork and I'm going, that'd be attention there. There's no reason that I couldn't take kids and do some things around the school and benefit us as a district also.
I'd like one comment. You're about not going to college.
Yeah.
I mean, not college in traditional sense, but if you go into one of these trades,
You'll still
going
go to
from an
school.
apprentice, it's gonna take you as long to get where you're going as somebody that goes to college.
Yeah.
And you're probably gonna work twice as hard.
Yeah.
But you're gonna get probably twice the reward when you're done with it too. So just the fact that you're still going to college, it's just not a traditional college. You learn on the job, and you're gonna work every bit as hard, if not harder.
Yeah.
And if you want to become a master carpenter or a master bricklayer, I mean, it's gonna take a lot of years, but once you get there, you're set for life. Plumber, I mean, plumbers, they're hurting anymore. Heating and cooling industry, average age is 60 years old for their industry. So, I mean, all of those fields are very wide open right now.
I mean, I'm a product of this institution, and granted, it was a long time ago, but we were told up front, you have to get a 4-year degree or you're never gonna find a job. I went that route. Now, I think back to my occupational interest surveys as a freshman, they said I should have been a bricklayer. I don't regret the college, but I want to show the kids that, through some of these trades, you can go anywhere, not just the United States, anywhere in the world, and make a heck of a living. Just an example, Australia, 20 years as a union mason, you can retire in Australia. I would be retired by 5 years by now. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So, anyways, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, kids. Thank you, Mark.
We need an auto mechanics class to build tiny little cars to park in our tiny garage.
We'll put John in charge of that.
Yeah.
Robotics class can do that.
Yeah, robotics class, that's it.
Could bring your Hot Wheels.
Merge the two together.
Okay, next, we're going to hear from Mrs. Barkala and the FFA.
Okay, well, I am going to, like normal, turn it over to them because they have prepared a presentation that will share with you our activities thus far this year. And I hope you guys will be able to see back to the PowerPoint, but why don't you guys kind of get up, and you'll have to stand off to the side to make sure that everybody can see. You want me to push the button, Stephanie? See, that's my job now.
Well, good evening. My name is Stephanie Naranjo, and I'm the chapter president. We have brought 6 members tonight to talk about just our fall activities and the stuff we have gone through the year. So, we'll go through and introduce ours. Go ahead.
I'm Desi German, and I'm a freshman this year. I'm Emily Doherty, and I'm in 7th grade.
I'm Remington Hansen, and I'm a freshman this year.
I'm Caleb Carlson, and I'm a freshman this year.
I'm Austin Dean, sophomore this year.
Okay, and our, oh, you got it. Okay, so first we will be talking about the National FFA Convention. So this year it was the 90th National FFA Convention, and there was many details and many trips that we went on. We will start off with talking about the first trip, and Caleb will be talking about that.
Alright, so we went to Cinnamon Ridge Farms. It's a giant dairy farm, and they use their pigs to fertilize their crops and their crops to feed the cows. And it all works on its own level and works together. And he was talking about how to make money and how to succeed when you become older. And when you have a dream to do something, fight for that dream, because as a kid, straight out of high school, his dad told him, if you want to get into farming, you're not joining my farm. So he had to raise his own farm from the bottom, and now he's the 14th overall dairy farm, I think, nationally, and he's come so far and has shown progress.
Next we toured the Caterpillar facilities. Go ahead, Remy.
Okay, so we went to like a CAD museum, and first we went in, and there we sat in the back of like a big dump truck, and we did a video of like where it started to like where it's at now, and it's just like how far it came, and then you could go back downstairs, and then you could like do some simulators and all that, like digging and all that, and then you can walk through and you can see all the old stuff, like all the older bulldozers and all that stuff.
Our next tour was the shrimp farms.
So the shrimp farm actually started out as a hog confinement, but while they were building it, the pork industry crashed. So they had to switch up things, look outside the box, and they settled on shrimp farming. This is one of the only shrimp farms in the United States, and is it automatic for the most part?
Yes, it's self-sufficient.
It's self-sufficient. They don't use any chemicals in there. They hand wash everything, soap and water.
Also have crawfish.
Yeah, they have crawfish, crayfish.
Yeah. So a lot of the tours that we did during this field trip was actually, they were very niche tours, so they were more thinking outside the box and going into fields that many people haven't really looked at. They're more of upcoming fields. So one of those included the Bison Ranch. So here is where our whole charter of us actually got to go, and we got to ride a hay rack out into a bison field where we got to hand feed all of the bison. They also gave a presentation about the Bison Association and how they are growing on a national level. This actually was a family-owned operation, and they had just purchased some more bison up in South Dakota, and they're growing themselves. So it was really neat to see this industry and seeing the up and works of it.
So at the convention center, we had it to where it was a big area and there was many colleges there, and they also had it to where there was different equipment such as Ford and Dodge, Chevy, and I had it to where I went to the colleges, and I walked around and met many of them, and I seen what they had and see what they had to offer, and looked at many of their programs and thought about it. Would you like to talk about the workshops?
Okay, so we went to a workshop and we had 2 presenters, and one of the presenters, they organic farm, and the other one does non-organic, and like they were telling us the difference, and one of them this year is he's gonna do like hay or something like as a cover crop, and then he's gonna roll it and like spring, and then he's gonna plant and see if like his crops turn out better. But the person that was doing non-organic said he's not gonna do that because he has cotton fields and he does peanuts and all that stuff. So yeah, that's what they're mainly talking about and telling us the difference between them, like the organic and non-organic.
Would you like to talk about your workshop?
Sure. A couple of us went to a workshop on procrastination and how to manage your time better so you can get the most out of your day. It was really interesting. It was really fast-paced. You really had to think about your decisions on the spot and what was most important to you. It would also help with decision-making and that.
And I went to a workshop about self-image and how we need to build each other up and we need to know our self-worth. Caleb, would you like to talk about the first general session? The first general session the speakers.
Well, we had when we got to the convention that was at Playhouse Arena, we were lucky enough to get the front row to all the speakers, and we got to listen to Sonny Perdue, the Secretary of Agriculture, and he gave us a very helpful speech over how the FFA has been helpful and how we're just a great organization to help with everything. We'll talk about Layla Ali.
So we listened to Layla Ali. She told us like to plan, like her whole thing was like to plan like your future out when you're young, because like she went through like a lot of different things. Like she started out like doing nails, and then she was a boxer, and then she was like a model or something like that. And she was like talking about like how the FFA is so like amazing and all that, because like a lot of the kids in it are like super nice, and yeah, she was a good speaker.
Something that really happened this year was that the Iowa candidate was actually elected to national office as a national secretary, so that was really neat to watch. It's always nice to see the sea of blue out and about. There was about 60,000 of us at the convention center throughout the whole week, so it was nice to see all the people from the Virgin Islands to Alaska to Hawaii all around. It was really neat to see all the states. Moving on, we will talk about Belmond-Klemme FFA's Rise Against Hunger. So this is the recent meal packaging event that we hosted here at the high school. We actually had a total of 365 volunteers with all the students and the community members that came in throughout the day. We were able to package 50,544 meals. We shattered our goal of 50,000 meals, which was way above and beyond. We had great community support from throughout the different communities that are in our school district. Hopefully this is something we can do on an annual or biannual basis. I think students really enjoyed it, and I do believe a lot of the staff enjoyed doing it as well. So, elevator meal.
So we sold about 350.
Yep.
And I thought it was pretty fun because you guys see many people come in and visit, and we packed a lot of them for them, and they could choose what they want. What were we serving?
We did pulled pork this year, and
I think.
This year it was pulled pork that the kids made, and then they did the different salads, and actually Miss Mites' food group made all, the FFA got the supplies, and the food groups actually made the salads for the event. So when the farmers came in, they could have their choice of which kind of salads.
Also with pop and chips.
The elevator meal is really one of the activities we do that we try to give back to the community members. We don't really plan on any meeting our goal, but a lot of the community members are very generous with the donations, so we always cover our costs and earn a little bit more. But it's always nice. It's a project that we do just to give back to the farmers during the harvest season, because we know of the long hours that they go through to feed the world. So.
And I do have to say, being at Mac Shield and Klemme, because you guys were there, it really does help out the farmers and that kind of stuff, especially when they're running all the time. It's really nice to see you guys there. They like to come in and donate. So, and some of them couldn't make it or whatever, and they just said that they would just donate to FFA. So
It was always great. It's such a tremendous, heartwarming feeling to see all the support that we do have within our community. Next, we will be talking about the recent leadership conferences that we have attended. We'll start off with the Green Hand Fire Up.
Okay, so the Green Hand Fire Up is for freshmen all over Iowa. You learn a bunch of different things there, and you get to interact with people our age for a couple of hours. Learn a lot of skills.
The Fire Up is really a base for freshmen to understand going into their high school career at FFA. They learn about SAEs and how to hold professional conversations. They also know how to do professional elevator speeches and present in front of people. Next, we'll be talking about the Discovery Conference.
So the Discovery Conference was so we first went into the first room, the FFA room, where we split off into groups, and we learned about turning me to we instead of making it all about yourself. We made it about everybody else there. So what that was about, so a football team had this autistic boy on their team, and they let him score the winning touchdown for their game. And so I thought that was a really good video of how to showing me to we. So we had
How old are Discovery?
Oh, Discovery is 7th and 8th graders. So we all just went to stations, and we talked about more of the agricultural careers and about emotions of turning me to we, and more about that.
Next, we'll talk about the 212 and 360 Conference.
Well, at the 212 conference, we learned a lot about emotion, physical, and mental health. We had it where we watched a video, and I'd say it probably covered a lot of the main keys because they had it to where they were showing people as Olympics, and what they did for workouts and how they pushed themselves, and they showed different things. And they also had it to where they brought up this one chick who played that one football game. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but she had it. She ended up breaking her neck in it, and she pushed herself a lot harder than people thought she could, and she actually ended up playing it again, and I believe she plays it today.
Yes, so I attended the 360 Conference, which is for juniors and seniors. There we really talked about what skills we have to offer going into the future and what we can do to prepare for the future to come. We also talked about self-worth and how we could build each other up, and we also talked about a little bit of each of what they discussed, so it was kind of more so combining all three. The Food Pantry Drive. So this is something that we are starting. We just started today, actually. We are doing our annual district-wide food drive here at the elementary and the high school. We are hoping to do 2 deliveries this year because the food pantry actually contacted us because they are really in low stock of items. So they contacted us to see if we could do a delivery before Thanksgiving break, so that way they would have supplies to be sufficient during that time. We will be doing another delivery right before the Christmas break, so that way they'll have supplies for the Christmas holiday as well. This is an initiative that we challenge students to take to bring in as many non-perishable items as they would like, then our FFA members go around to each classroom in different power lunches. They count the items, we keep a running total, and then the FFA sponsors a pizza party for the winning class and classroom. So it's something that we do to really give back to the food pantry. They're very appreciative of it every year. I do believe this is the 3rd year we're doing it. Yeah, we started by sophomore year, so hopefully it's something we will continue to do in the future. I do believe that is the end of our presentation. We'd like to thank you guys for listening to us, and we hope that you guys enjoyed our presentation. Questions? Do you guys have any questions at all?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do, and our world needs more of what the FFA believes in, so thank you.
Just don't forget. Thank you, guys. Okay.
All right, you'll find Superintendent's report on page 21 in your packet, and I'd like to highlight just a couple of things, and that is Trish Morris is off this evening. She needs some personal time, but she's working on replacing our network servers. The cost should be between $15,000 and $16,000, but it's interfering with our instruction, and it brought our central office, business offices operation to a screeching halt. So this is something we need to get taken care of. So I want to make you aware of it. I'd like to, my congratulations go to Kendra Hagen, who received her 4th grant this year, and this one is a big one from Halverson Train, and she's using it for STEM materials. That's something that she's sharing with other classes in the district, so it's not just for her. And the STEM materials are a big push that we're working toward within our school. We got some good news on our EL program. They received some new iPads that helps with some of their testing and some of their applications that are helping them learn their language skills. And I also wanted to recognize Mrs. Waller's class who took it upon themselves to go out and trick or treat for UNICEF. So that was a student-led initiative there in the 5th grade. And the rest of my report is in writing from pages 21 to 23. Does anyone have any questions on anything?
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll have the principal's reports.
I'll start on this one.
Okay, your turn.
In response to your question about the hubs, it's the regional academies, and basically Mr. Frazier has been in contact with Todd Leto over at Hampton. They're contemplating doing one at the Cal site. Eagle Grove has one where Webster City, Fort Dodge, Eagle Grove, and Clarion belong to already. We also have one sitting at Garner Hayfield, and you have another one at West Fork. So it'll be hard for us to become a regional academy because you're supposed to have 4 offerings and 3 to 4 different schools involved in that academy. So they draw from, we already have people basically, Hampton Dumont is probably the only one that's really out there with Cal by themselves right now, and that's only draw. And I know Mr. Frazier's talked with Todd a little bit about trying to do something there, and also trying to look at how we can, meld these things together. Because we also have a health services or health occupation that's very strong here. We also have the masonry that's going very well. So we have those things to offer. It's just trying to get, how do we divvy that out and how do we get people on our campus versus how do we get our kids to go to those other campuses because there's better opportunities. I think with some of the things that Mr. Frazier and I have looked at a little bit is that, we're part of Wright County, but our Wright County schools go down to the south to Iowa Central, and we're going to Nyack. And how do we do that, and how do we make that happen so we can do more things together? I think is one of those areas too as well. But that started last year with those regional academies, and we just haven't settled on how we're gonna do it yet and what that plan's gonna look like yet, but we're in that process of trying to get that together. So, and then I've got a couple other things that'll happen tonight. We'll talk about the graduation requirements, and I'll just mention that a little bit as they come up and stuff. So I'm just not gonna do any more report than that.
Can I ask you a question though?
Yes.
I'm beyond ecstatic that you are willing to look at block scheduling again. Is that something, I mean, that Mark said they're using block
He is.
scheduling?
I think you look at a class like that needs additional time.
Absolutely. We used to
And I
have
think
block
you-
scheduling here, and I was devastated when it went away. And I think there are other classes that would benefit from block scheduling besides just the shop. You know,
I
like
do too.
physics and
Yeah.
home ec and marching band and new
Yeah.
group and, you know, I mean,
And
there's just
I-
all kinds of classes.
Yeah, and
that
I
would
think you look at it,
benefit.
you're trying to, how you can, I would say a modified schedule is how you do that.
Correct.
To try to make it more
And
successful.
that was what we would have liked the school board to consider when they did away with block scheduling. We had proposed a modified block scheduling so that the, like Spanish classes, the math classes that wanted to meet every day could. And so if you're willing to look at that, I would love that.
I think you do what's best for kids, you know, look at alternatives.
You know, like art is another one, by the time they get all their stuff out, you know, that it's time to clean up.
Especially like when they're doing pottery.
Exactly.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Or they're
Yes.
doing, you know, we don't do a lot of oils.
Yeah.
But if you did painting and did oils and stuff like that,
Exactly.
that's very hard to get that stuff cleaned up in a.
Same thing with, I mean, we lost an awesome science teacher when we went away from block scheduling because she just said, I can't do it. I can't teach
Get her labs.
chemistry and set up all those labs the
Yeah.
way I want to do it in a regular schedule. And she went to Newman where they still have blocks.
Yeah, and I would say Gilbert's kind of a misnomer out there, but, and Boone does it as well, where they have 4 days of the typical or traditional, and they have 2 days of block. And, or something of that nature. One of them's one way, 6-day schedule, the other one's a 5-day schedule where they do 2 days of block. And then,
Algona's doing the same sort of thing right now. When we first went to block scheduling, we were kind of leery about it. I mean, we studied it for a year, and we thought, oh, there's no way we can not have every class meet. So it was like blue day, green day, white day. And white day, all 8 classes met, and that was usually Friday. And after we got into it for a while, the teachers couldn't think of anything to do on the white days except give a test because they were so used to the longer period of time. So then white day became like 6 tests for the kids. And so we decided, do we really need the white days? No, we really don't. So we just got rid of them and went with the block schedule. But I'm really glad that you're willing to take a look at that.
So a lot of the news that I had to share, I shared with Dr. Frazier and he shared with you. We had our 5th graders went to the Science Center, 4th graders went to Rondon Gardens. Last week, our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders went to a show out at Nyack that was a science-based, interactive, experimental show called Dr. Kaboom. Interesting. He does live experiments on stage and does lots of, it really emphasizes the safety of chemistry and science, but gets kids excited. And what I want to say about all those things is that this is unique for me coming to Belmond because it's the kind of thing that a lot of our students, where I came from before, the district didn't pay for anymore. They didn't provide those opportunities. We have community members that have kicked in the money for the tickets, and John has generously offered to provide the busing, and so the district's paying for that, and it allows these students to have those opportunities. And that's good for them, especially the older students who, we know a lot of students probably wouldn't get those opportunities. And those are great. We have some great things in Iowa. The Science Center is an amazing place if you've never been. And even things like the Nyack Auditorium is a nice it's a visual for students to see what can happen. So just want to thank the community members, thank the board for letting us bus kids down to and from those places. I was also very proud, and Greg and I talked about this a lot. Our students came over to the pep rally that we had before the playoff game. Our new music teacher found out that we hadn't taught the school song for a while, so we taught all the kids the school song. They got up and sang it with gusto, as they say, and I thought that's really nice. I think that's a nice segue for those kids as they move into the high school, middle school and high school. So we're just working hard every day, doing a lot of reading, doing a lot of math, really trying to get them on the same page. So had a good year so far. Hope it keeps going. Oh, and the musical was wonderful. Like, we brought kids over to the musical too for the dress rehearsal. Did a nice job. And they, I think, I didn't hear any comments otherwise, that they were very respectful and did a nice job. And listened, and then we had to leave right before the end. So we tried to get out quietly, but it went very well. Again, thanks for the opportunity to present. Zach invited us, and kids were excited about it.
Yeah, and we'll have a pep rally on Friday as well.
Okay.
We have a young lady that's going to perform at all states, so we have to do a little pep rally. So, yeah.
She'll be there on Friday.
Well, it's be Thursday. We actually do it.
Yeah, she'll miss
I
it.
said Friday,
Yeah,
but Thursday. She'll do Thursday about 10 o'clock, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
She'll get ready to go, and I think we're going to do our high five through the hallway for her. So,
I saw that with the football players and that kind of stuff. Or, no.
Cross country.
It was cross country, and that was awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, we'll do that.
It was fun. Okay. Moving on to the action items, school improvement, review graduation requirements.
Okay.
Is that you or is it Greg or is it both of you?
He's
Both of us
started,
together, but I guess I took charge of it. The board policy says that we will review this policy on an annual basis. And on page 24 of your packet, you'll see the current graduation requirements. We require 26 credits for graduation, which is a little higher than some other schools in the area. Mr. Fisher did some research, and you see at the bottom of page 26 what some other schools have. He would like to suggest, this is not an official proposal tonight, but he has been playing with an idea. Now, you really, at this point, Mr. Fisher, haven't bounced this off your staff to any great extent, have you?
No.
So this is basically one man's opinion, not a recommendation from
Myself,
the
my guidance counselor, looked at what I had at previous schools. So I haven't brought it forward to them. I haven't taken it to the School Improvement Advisory Committee where it'll go, so we haven't done that yet.
So we won't bring a formal
No,
recommendation
no.
to this board until we've gone through those steps.
Correct.
But this is just to indicate to you that one idea that some other schools have actually gone to, two different diploma ideas. But, you know, it's worth taking a look at this, and I posed some questions. Are we requiring enough years of math here in the schools? Do we require enough foreign language? Some schools, actually a couple of states now require, entire states require school kids take at least one online class in order to graduate from high school. Just because so many of the universities are now requiring kids to take an online class when they get to college. Sometimes it's a mix, and where they take some time in class time and some online, but some classes are just entirely online, and if our kids don't have that experience, are they well prepared for the modern universities that have that requirement? Should we talk about career readiness, more vocationally oriented classes, hands-on classes? I think you heard a little bit about that from the strong opinions of some of our shop kids with their garages. And right now, our curriculum is a little thin on technology courses. We're not doing much with computer programming, computer repair, web design, web programming, those kinds of things. And these are very future, very real, job-oriented, modern skills. And finally, I asked the question, our nation has a problem with juvenile obesity. We require a lot of physical education, but are we doing right by them in that regard too? So those aren't recommendations for me, just questions for the board to consider. So I'll pause a moment, let you see if you'd like to comment or ask questions.
I observed that there was no specific suggestion about our credits required for the honors diploma. We were talking about the basic diploma for a regular graduate, and I wasn't quite certain if I understood whether you intended that the honors diploma would be something that would have additional hours required, or whether it was because of the maintenance of certain standards by that student, nothing below a C. In other words, everything
Gary, I took it.
Ramped
as-
it up.
That was the 26 credit, and the other one was 24. What we ask everybody of now is 26.
So we're saying that the honors would be at 26.
Plus,
That was the way I took it.
yeah, and they were gonna have certain requirements
Yeah, I
that
understand.
they had to fulfill to qualify for that.
Okay. So we would still have to figure out a way to market that too.
Correct. Oh yeah, you have to do. I'm gonna tell you, once the kids, they get it,
Yeah.
they'll get it. They'll go after it.
Yeah.
I was talking to Dan before the meeting. Of course, everybody knows my bias, but I just don't want to see kids not have time to be in the extracurriculars like band and choir and
That's why we
art
kept it.
and-
That's why we
yeah.
kept it still the 26 where it's at. And really, to be honest with you, kids that are in the college-bound track anyway, pretty much have this taken care of.
Right.
Mhm.
And so that's where your differentiation is saying, okay, we do have the college-bound kids, we have the other kids that aren't college-bound. If they comply with this, they meet all their requirements, why wouldn't we give that opportunity for them to get an honors diploma when it's available to them to get? Just something that we haven't offered to them
Yeah.
in the past. Whereas at other schools I've been, have done that to acknowledge their work, the differentiation.
I'm assuming then that you wouldn't be able to be like the class valedictorian or anything unless you got the honors, you were on the honors track, right?
I would say that's probably one of those stipulations that you'd have to meet that need.
Yeah.
A lot of food for thought.
There is, and I think that's why you have those discussions that need to come yet.
And, getting back to the block schedule thing, when we first went to that, we changed, at the same time, we changed from semesters to trimesters, just to allow kids to get more of their
Yeah.
classes in.
Yeah.
And-
Give more classes and also more electives as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That trimester does do that.
Yes, it does.
And that's why I like Indian Hills
Mhm.
as a college, because they give trimesters and get more classes in legally during that
Mhm.
time.
Right. Or some colleges do a J term or a May term.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do the same thing, just gives you another time. Because you're only allowed to have the kids enroll in so many class periods in each semester.
Okay, thank you. So we'll just hear from you on an
Yes,
ongoing
yeah,
basis.
hopefully we'll get it moved on to our staff and the school improvement advisory committee and bring it back to you.
Absolutely. And just once again, going back to the block schedule thing, we had all kinds of input as teachers to help build that schedule. And that was huge, I think, is that helped us to buy into it if we felt like we had some
You
say
have
so.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, transportation and fleet vehicles, John?
Okay, you guys should have all the, on your,
You'll find a graph of our vehicle miles on page 26 in the packet.
I'll just run through them quick and basically what they are, what they're used for, et cetera. The first one, a 94 Bluebird, we use it as a spare or / activity bus. It was used a lot in the summer for baseball. It's just a good old bus. The 99 Bluebird, that is the bus that I drive in the afternoon. I put approximately 2 to 3 miles on it a day. The 2000 Bluebird is a spare. That's one that I'm trying to sell from previous meeting. I've been having a hard time getting a hold of anybody that would be interested. It's too good of a bus to just sell to somebody to go take and wreck. I mean, it'd be good for like a Newman or somebody, so hopefully we can get that sold for a decent amount. The 2005 Bluebird is a spare / activity bus. Use it a lot in the spring for trap shoot, track. What else goes on in the spring? Soccer. Seems like there's something else. Golf. Yeah, so we got a lot going on in the spring, so I gotta have a decent backup for that. 2001 Bluebird is a route bus. That's the oldest route bus we have. The 2003 is actually Thomas. That's just a designated activity bus. We will use it if bus doesn't start or something, we'll grab that one if it's here. Any given day of the week, it's gone to a sporting event. The 2008, it's a route bus. The 2011 is a activity bus. That's our big 78 passenger used for football and basketball when we haul both girls and boys. The 3 lease buses are all route buses. The Chevy Bluebird is special ed route. The cutaway bus. The Chevy Uplander is the lunch ladies use it to run back and forth between the schools, hauling food, whatever they do. The 99 Chevy Astro is a backup. I mean, if everything else is gone, we'll use it. The Chevy Impala is driver's ed, mostly. Staff does use it occasionally to run to a meeting in Forest City or Mesa City or the AEA. The 2009 Suburban is staff and students. The 2013 Chevy Express is a special ed van designated only. We bought it with special ed funds, and I think we have to use that for 7 years before we can technically use it for anything else. And 2 Town and Countries are staff, students, etc. Any questions?
So your recommendation is in the middle of the school year, we should buy some more vehicles, fleet vehicles?
To set out bids for a bus.
Rather than leasing.
Well, Dan and I have talked about leasing, and we were in a pinch at that point that we got rid of, I think, 3 old buses, and that was our best option at the time.
Okay.
I'd recommend against leasing. With the way schools are financed in Iowa, where we have the PEPAL money, we have the sales tax money. If we're paying lease, why then there's a finance fee attached to whoever is carrying that lease for us. And it's better to just buy it outright, because it is, as it is, we have to buy those lease buses, lease to own.
Yeah.
So why not just own them from the get-go? Yeah. So that would be my recommendation, and mid-year is usually a pretty good time to get buses. They might have, it's a slow time for them, so they have, so they might have stock sitting around that they'll offer a decent price to. Not necessarily, but there's a possibility. As opposed to doing it March, April, May, when a lot of people are gearing up for the next school year. I've just had a lot of success shopping for buses this time of year.
Okay, so do you need action on this tonight, or? Really?
I'm recommending action tonight, and right now, this is just a report here, the first part of the agenda, but then if there are no further questions on the condition of the fleet and what Mr. Swenson is asking for, the 2 of us together are asking for a new bus. If there's no further action on this, well then I'd suggest we go on to the next item on the agenda, which is vehicle purchasing specifications. And that is, we have a slight change we need to make on that, but this pages 27 and 28, this is the letter I would send out to our bus company, our bus vendors. And we have a little bit of a mix-up on the capacity. John, what were you thinking in terms of capacity?
It's just the conventional style, the 70 to 78 passenger conventional, the one with the slope nose. They won't fit in our bus barn. It's just too. So it would have to be a transit style stub nose bus.
Okay. So you want me to change those specs when I send it out to 78 transit?
Yeah.
Okay.
72 to 78 transit. They do make 72 and 78 passenger conventionals, but I'm pretty sure it'll stick out about 5
Transit,
foot.
by the way, is the stub nose bus.
Yeah. Unless we want to buy a great big huge bus barn.
We just painted this one, didn't we?
We just finished the paint job.
With a new shop.
Yeah. Well, now I'd like to clarify one of the things, if we got this new bus, my recommendation is that we not put it on the route to begin with. What happens in schools is, as you get these older buses like on that list, where you see that 94 Bluebird, when they get up those high miles, the 99, 94 buses, people don't like to drive those older buses if they don't have to. They prefer to have a newer, cleaner bus. And so they sometimes put on 2,000 miles a year, and they never quite hit that 200,000 mark where we kind of decide that it was time to dispose of them. My recommendation would be to keep some of our older buses on the routes and have our single newest bus in reserve as an activity bus. That way, it's our very best bus, and if we've got a basketball team or a wrestling team coming home from Armstrong Ringstead at midnight and it's 40 below wind chill, we know they're traveling on our very best bus.
And they'll get home.
And they're most likely to get home, and if ever we have a bus go down anywhere, we've got in reserve our very best bus that's most likely to start and go out and pick up that other bus. So, and that's a way of squeezing more miles out of those older buses and having a really good, reliable bus in the future. And a couple years down the road, we get another bus. It rotates in as that number one reserve activity bus, and that our bus that's now 2 years old rotates onto a route.
That 2003 has just broke 100,000 miles on it, and it's just been an activity bus its entire life. So, but
we'll put that on our route.
Yeah,
we have mine.
Well, either that one or the 2011 we can roll down into the route.
Okay, so you are looking for a motion to approve this request for proposals?
Correct.
Is there anyone who would like to make that motion?
I'd make that motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Sure, I will.
Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none. All in favor of authorizing our superintendent to request proposals for a new bus, say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Student representatives to the school board.
I created a resolution, if the board would like to take a look at that. It's on page 29 of your packet. Is the board interested in having we have a group of 4 student council, high school student council representatives who would like to have a seat at the table as an advisor to the board. Does the board have an interest in pursuing that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think it's a great idea.
100%.
Super.
It's their school.
Ex
I mean,
officio.
honestly, they're, without them, we don't have a school.
Right. Ex officio.
So,
Under Iowa law, obviously, they couldn't vote, so that's
Yeah.
that's ex officio.
So the 4 would rotate, is that?
I think that's what they had in mind, or if somebody couldn't make it, they have a reserve or something like that.
Definitely.
Good plan.
Who are the 4? I'm assuming you're 2 of them?
Yes, and Brianna Verhouse as well as Ryan Sanders.
Okay.
All right, so I guess we're gonna need a motion for that. I'll make the motion. Teresa.
I'll second.
Mark. Any further discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Welcome to the board.
Yeah. Where's their seat?
I know, we'll have to get little things.
Would one of you like to join us?
Yeah, come on up. Who's gonna do it tonight?
Danielle? You got it.
Hey.
Come on down. Yeah, there's lots of room. They could both come today, actually.
Yeah, right, we got room.
Come on up,
Come on,
Stephanie.
Sarah, come on. Steph's gonna be here too.
That way you know how it feels.
You're in the hot seat now.
Yeah, now you're on camera.
Push it right out, Jackie.
Okay, discussion items. Number 7. A major building repair bid process for the handicap accessibility at the ball fields.
Okay. On page 30 of your packet, I give you 2 aerial views of our ball fields. And I brought this in tonight. By the way, our architect, Mr. Weininger, is going to be at our December meeting. He's going to have specifications for the board to approve, but I'd like to get a little feedback from the board and Mr. Fisher, if you'd like to weigh in on this as well, that'd be fine. Because I'm still fairly new here, 3.5 months of the job. I'd like to know what you have in mind as far as this blacktop. Now, if you see on page 30, the first image is just the way, an aerial view of the way the fields look right now. And Mr. Weininger and I walked out there last week and we said, okay, well, let's first take a look at the football field. We could see a asphalt pad, or maybe it's a hard surface or something like that, extending out into the parking area so somebody could drive up with a van and drop somebody off. But then in front of the concession stand, all that blacktopped off, and then with a path leading back to the bleachers. We have access to the bleachers and basically a blacktop path behind the bleachers so we can get over to the other side and give some access. Right now we've got a lot of wheelchairs that go to that north gate, north of the bleachers, where they sit out on the track. And Mr. Weininger suggests down the road we might want to consider, it'll be a pricey operation, but a raised platform where the wheelchairs could sit on that platform and have a better view and not be encumbered by the football players that stand along the sidelines. Although it's not quite fully up to code, because to be fully up to code means we'd have to remove our current bleachers, because those handicap seats are supposed to be incorporated in the seating along with everybody else. So to do it 100%, we would have to remove our bleachers and build all new, which obviously we're not required to do that. We're grandfathered in at this point. But and then if you look across on the right-hand side of that pane, you'll see that, if you recall, there's a large concrete pad all around that concession stand and those restrooms, that roofed area there. It was our estimate, keep in mind I've never seen a softball game or a baseball game here, but it was our estimate that a car could potentially, or van could potentially drive up to that concrete pad and drop somebody off. And then the only issue was blacktopping east of that house so that people could sit behind the backstops and wheelchairs or what have you. And then we also had a little strip that went behind the bleachers to the south and sat there between the bleachers and the dugout. We thought that was a nice viewing spot. Unfortunately, by the placement of the dugout, there's really not that same space on the softball diamond as there is on the baseball diamond.
No, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And actually, we were going to move the bleachers to behind the backstops.
Oh, are we going to do that? That's part of the plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that makes it a little bit tougher. I didn't, I agreed that with you.
Yeah, okay.
For the baseball field, I've been looking at this for a couple of days, and I was thinking, if I was in a van that had wheelchair accessible, I would really hate to have to pull up and not have my van looking out at the baseball diamond. That extend that blacktop a little bit further to the west, so that if I come out of the van on a platform, I come out on blacktop, not on rock. And also make that handicap accessible at those spots. So you'd have 2 or 3 spots for people who are handicapped. Parking spots. And so they can either get out and sit in their wheelchair beside the van, or they can stay in the van and watch the game. That's the only change I thought I would like to see made, was simply make that a broader, so that you could park a vehicle on the blacktop facing to the east toward the baseball diamond.
I don't know if there'd be room for more than like one vehicle.
Oh, just one?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'd have to take another look at it.
Certainly more in the baseball than the softball.
Oh yeah,
there's really not.
The softball just doesn't lend itself.
There's no space there on the
Baseball
softball
field, if you
thing.
move the bleachers, probably can get 2 vehicles in there, probably.
On the south?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'd be close.
You mean before the dugout?
Yeah, see between the dugout and the pole, but it'd be close. I'd be concerned about somebody getting up there that close with the concession stand.
At least we need a place for people to get out of their vans and not end up on the rocks with their wheelchairs. That's the only, we need to figure out that, make sure that was gonna work.
But if you just build a platform there, they can get out on that platform and then
Roll over.
proceed
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
to their destination.
Sure. Ed could figure that out.
I mean, just make the little area by the concession stand, you know, another, what, 4 foot wider? Just so that way there's a definite place for them to get off at.
You could probably do that. The only other thing I would add to that, on the backside of the north side, we talked about having an entranceway for the ambulance to come on the football field.
I couldn't see it. I mean, I looked at, I was out there and said, Greg said something about an ambulance, and I don't see where this is gonna happen.
Well, we're gonna have to do it someplace there. I think you can.
Are you talking about a whole new gate or something?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Cut it.
Yes. And so,
Backside here.
yeah, and so they just,
Talking about up here.
so
Yeah.
we create a
Across
new
from the nursing
gate,
home.
Yeah, yeah.
and we just create a driveway to the track side, so
Okay.
they can sit up there by themselves, so they're outside of all the crowd.
Yeah,
So they have a lot easier access, yeah, that's right, so they have a lot
Yeah,
easier
just create
access
something else
to the field.
somewhere else, too.
people aren't in their way and they
Yeah,
can get out of there
I
and
think
go.
they would prefer that.
Yes, we would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice if the driveway for the ambulance could pull into, could go all the way up almost to the track. So you could almost back the ambulance in there, open the doors, and drop the cot right up close. These ambulance cots are not beside the door of the grass.
Yeah.
And it's,
Or
so then, yeah,
Or
or rock,
rocks.
so then they could take the track around the shortest route straight across the field to whatever players may happen to be in the center of the field.
Oh, with the
Well, I'm
car.
gonna tell you,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what, if we got a player down the field, we take the
Yeah.
ambulance on the field.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're not gonna have help. We
Yeah.
have plenty of people to help if we need to.
Yeah, but we were just gonna, my thing is, get them away from the people so you don't have to worry about coming in and out. And
So what is the issue of the extended track there, you know, where they line up for the readers?
We have some, and I'm not sure if it's telephone or what it is back there, they have a box there
Like it's full.
in that area that we have to be concerned about or worried about a little bit, so it doesn't, I don't think it can go straight back.
Oh, 'cause I
And
was
there's
just
also, I
thinking
think there's
that'd be
also
perfect, like
some,
to just drive up on the track
I
there.
think there's
straight
also
away.
a curb
Yeah.
issue there too as well, if I remember right.
You do want to try to protect that track, because
Yeah.
that is darned expensive to
Yeah.
replace that rubberized surface.
We
Yeah.
don't, yeah,
Yeah,
we don't
I
want an
agree.
ambulance on the track.
But if you got a kid, I'm gonna tell you, if you got a kid with a neck injury,
Yeah.
you take him up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's just not a, you don't do it on an everyday.
No.
we're just not going to
situation.
start running the homecoming cars around the track
No.
to entertain the people.
You can do now, I mean, our track is so old.
Back in the day,
It's a brand new
they did
track.
it myself.
I know.
They did.
Yes, they did.
That will help free up for your pad you want to put out there for wheelchairs and stuff too. Is that vehicles can come, we can block off little areas so nobody parks right in there, so they can drive up, drop the person off and pull around and park. You know, unless it is a handicapped person driving, and then they'll have to do something else. But this, I mean, you know, just cordon off that little area for the ambulance anyway, make sure they can get in and out. I'm always where it's during the game, somebody's gonna pull in there and park and walk away from their car.
Yeah, we can't get out. Get out.
Well, we'll get out,
You know,
yeah, no
yeah.
problem, but there'll be some damage done, but
Yeah.
they'll get out.
Yeah. But it's so hard when you put that thing in, I do worry about that. I mean, my first game here, I think we had an issue, and had to have somebody move it. Had to get on the PA and have them move it.
Yeah.
And again, it seems like a small thing, but boy, could it be a huge thing.
Stephanie, you were going to say something?
But yeah, it was just a comment, like if we were to add a gate to this where we're looking at, would it be easier access for the people from the nursing home who are wheelchairs, just because of that track, so it'd be easier access?
Come off the hill and just shoot right across that.
Yeah, put a little ramp down, yeah.
Like in the Capitol Rotunda.
Just like Hot Wheels racers.
Daniel, do you want to tell them what you were telling us?
If we were gonna add at the baseball field, I know like for my uncle, he has a van that's handicap accessible. If we're gonna make the platform, just make it big enough so he can get his ramp out, because putting it onto the gravel, even though he's on the cement, the van is on the cement, putting his ramp onto the gravel is not gonna do anything.
Right, obviously, that's
Yeah.
big point. That's what we've got to make sure that they can use it. Then it's always hard surface that wheelchair is going to be on.
Yeah, these are regular attendees, so.
Okay. Gives me enough to go on, but if you got other suggestions, if any of you come up with any ideas, you look about that at this later, feel free to get in touch with me, and I'll pass it on to our architect.
The SIAC committee is our next item.
I'd have to admit, folks, I have done very little with the SIAC since our last meeting. There's just been some other things that have taken precedence.
I admit too, I haven't been anywhere around because of work. Sorry.
But so a couple of you have given me some names. I have not been in touch with those. I don't know if you've got any other recommendations tonight, any of you?
Did I give you names?
I don't know who'd you give me.
I don't remember. That's what I'm asking you.
Is this an advisory council?
Yes.
For the school board?
Yes.
It's required.
And we'll need student representatives on this advisory council.
And I think it would be a great idea if it was the 4 that are
Oh, I'd second that.
be our board people, because that would be very convenient.
Wow, also people knowledgeable.
Okay, so you would like us to give you
More names.
more names?
More names, and feel free to make contacts if you got people out there. I know there have been a couple people that have said, hey, who saw in the paper that we were talking about this and said, hey, I'd like to be on this, so that's good. These are the list that we have now, yes.
How many people are usually on an advisory?
Oh.
Sorry, I ask a lot of questions.
That's okay, that's why you're here. A dozen, we could be up to 18, 20, probably we max out about 20, I suppose. But we want to make sure, actually according to state law, we have to make sure that the committee is broad enough to represent all different facets of our community. And not, when I say community, I mean Belmond-Klemme, Goodell, sorry, I'm from out of town. Rowan, thank you. There's no special qualifications.
Is there anything that would just be
Yes. There's certain things that if you've broken the law and
You're on any lists.
You're a
yes,
felon.
If you can't vote, you can't sign.
well, just because the
You'll know when they can.
just because the president's kids, there's certain people that can't be around.
People on the list.
Yes.
I'd like to propose to Cora Martinez.
What can we recommend?
think Socorro would be a great addition to bringing diversity from the Hispanic population in our community.
We definitely need that. We don't have those names at this time.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
It would be great to have other people who aren't associated with the school.
Yes, that's really what we need, because she obviously has an avenue to give her input to the superintendent that she sees every day, so.
Speak freely.
Okay.
So when does female
Before the next board meeting?
That'd be helpful, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, Wright County School Board Retreat Review. Gary and Dan and I were there. Do you want to?
Feel free, you suggested we should talk about this tonight.
I did suggest it. I just thought it was very helpful for us to go to this meeting. We could go Monday. We met with the Eagle Grove School Board and the Clarion Dallas Goldfield School Board, and then we had Todd Leto was there from Hampton Dumont, because they are going to be, or they're kind of in the middle of a sharing agreement with Cal, and so he was talking about some transportation issues, which I thought that was very interesting, and I think that's something that will be probably talked about tomorrow at the school board convention. When you realize how much, like, every kid, brings in X amount of dollars, like 6,000, let's say, and a rural school is spending like $1,900 to $2,000. That's $6,000 on transportation in some cases, whereas an urban school is spending like half or less than half of that, because their transportation costs are so much less because they only have to cover 2 or 3 miles. And like Western Dubuque School District covers like 560 miles or something. It's just crazy.
And Western Burlington,
Yeah.
the entire district is 2 square miles.
2 square miles.
There's nowhere that's farther than a mile from school.
How much transportation costs there?
No, that we talk about it at the school board, or the transportation, Iowa meeting, we talk about that when every year gets brought up how one's district is 2 miles, they have 400 students, and their transportation cost is like $50 per kid. And then everybody else is 1,000 and 1,500 and 300 and.
In Western Dubuque, they've got a number of Amish schools, I believe, that they're also
Yeah.
So they're not just transporting to the public schools, because the courts have ruled that they have to cover those non-public schools as well.
And I think they had like 55 or 60 routes that they, every day, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. But, so that was one thing that we talked about.
And one thing on that, I
Yes,
did notice
sure.
that within those schools represented at the county conference, that the lowest cost per pupil of transportation was Belmond-Klemme.
But when we buy a new bus.
It'll go way up.
Well, there's less maintenance, less.
Yeah.
It kind of evens out.
Another thing that I thought was really interesting, and I'm gonna let you talk about yours, so I'm not gonna steal your thunder, but the superintendent from Eagle Grove talked about the effects that the Prestige plant is going to have on all the area school districts. His premise is basically housing. We need a lot more affordable housing because we're not going to get the plant managers. They're not going to live in our communities. They're going to live in Ames, or they're going to live in Clear Lake or someplace, and on some fancy schmancy place, you know. But we're going to get the people that are going to be the shift workers. Right now they're planning on 1 shift a day, but within 4 years they're planning on 2 shifts. By 2021 they're planning to have 2 shifts. And they said it's going to affect all of us, because the thing that starts happening first is that the workers at Galt and at Clarion will go to the Prestige plant because it'll probably be better wages, and then people will backfill the jobs at Galt and Clarion. So yes, maybe a person from Belmont would drive to Eagle Grove for a job, but they don't have to. They can drive to Galt or to Clarion for a job because those people went to the Eagle Grove plant. So there's kind of a domino effect that's going to happen, as well as all the other businesses that are going to be created by having this influx of jobs and people in the area.
Yeah, that was an interesting perspective, that magnet of Eagle Grove draws people there, but then all the jobs that they vacated now have to be filled by people from an outlying area, and that's why we get affected here. And Hampton will be affected by the jobs here, because people will be moving closer to that magnet. Yeah, the Eagle Grove Community School District is under a lot of pressure to figure out just how to get ready for this.
Yeah, I would almost say they're terrified.
The superintendent seemed terrified to me.
He did, because he's like, no way do we have room for all these kids that are going to come in, and no way can we realistically remodel some of our buildings.
They don't have enough room in their high school now.
Correct, that's the
That
one
was
that
part
I
of
was
the
the
problem.
most scared about. Yeah.
They haven't built to prepare for this long term, so therefore they have no room.
Right. Okay, you talk. I talked about 2 now.
Oh, I just presented a little bit on some of the impact of technology on our society, and the school's role in making sure that our kids are prepared and given the technology skills. And there's a lot of things we need to do to gear up and make changes in order to give our kids better chances at jobs in the future.
I want to use one of the things I picked. I don't pick up much from all of this, but I did pick up one thing he said that was just, if I go to college today, by the time I'm halfway through college and get ready to graduate 2 years later, what I learned in the first half of my college education is obsolete.
In a technical field.
In a technical field, what I learned in the first 2 years is obsolete by the time I graduate with my 4-year degree. It's gone. So that's how things are moving so quickly and moving so fast that to get up and be ready to move forward with technology is a monumental task. And what he tried to point out was we're not sure our schools are helping us get there.
The other thing that we talked about that was important is that we need to be collaborative with the schools in our county and not, now in this whole new scary world of no collective bargaining, try to steal each other's teachers by offering them signing bonuses to steal their teachers out of their school in a hard to fill area, like for example, industrial technology or special ed or something that could start to get very ugly very quickly.
It's already started.
Yeah, I mean, we're just at the beginning of it in Iowa. They've already seen this happening in Wisconsin because they've been at it for 5 years. Anything else from the school board retreat?
It's good.
It was very good.
Food was good.
The food was good, and it was very interesting.
Grounded in Clarion.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, ISB Delegate Assembly and Annual Convention. I'm your delegate to the Delegate Assembly. I brought my packet, but I'm happy to go through the 78 different things that we're going to be voting on tomorrow morning and get your opinions on it, or you can just trust me.
I trust you, Jackie.
Okay.
In the form of a consent agenda?
Yeah, like a consent agenda. There you go. We could have put this under the consent agenda.
We could have, yeah.
And then there'll be several of us attending the convention Thursday
Right.
and Friday.
Did everybody get their packets? You didn't, I didn't? Okay. I'm
I
just
got
asking.
mine, but I have credentials that I have to turn in to
Okay.
get the little voters.
So when I show up, they'll give me a packet?
They will.
Okay, that's all.
It'll be there. I'm not aware of them mailing them out in advance.
Do they
Okay.
mail them?
No,
Because we wouldn't do that anymore. We're online
there is an app, by the way. There is a conference app.
There you go.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody need rides? Anybody want to share, or do you feel comfortable getting down there yourselves? I know I have an obligation Thursday night. If somebody wanted to ride with me, I'll be going down Wednesday to noon tomorrow, but then I'll be coming back late Thursday. My wife is getting a week off for Thanksgiving.
Yay.
Yeah, and she's coincidentally she's flying into Des Moines about 5 o'clock on Thursday night.
Oh, she'll miss our meal.
Yes, she will. Yes. I'll tell her about it though.
You bet.
That'll upset her. But most of her colleagues down there in Texas would prefer to be home for Christmas, so she gets to come home for Thanksgiving, but she has to be there for Christmas.
Oh, Margaret,
Yeah.
right. That's terrible.
The interesting thing, though, is she does have other little perks. VIP is coming to their offices tomorrow, and she's on the delegation to greet Vice President Pence. She's coming to inspect our operation.
That's good. That's exciting.
I'm glad for that one. That one I wouldn't be so glad for. I'd be envious for tomorrow. As President Trump, I wouldn't be so envious.
I'm going down at 11 tomorrow, but I'm not coming home until Friday night. Because I have another conference to go to on Friday, so I should.
Yeah, I can't. I have to drive myself.
Yeah,
to
you got
because of
the,
Allstate.
all stand.
Now, if for some odd reason, I still haven't,
Yeah.
I'm still trying to see if I can get somebody. We're gonna have to pay for me when I get there?
Oh, yeah,
Am
you
I
can walk
gonna
in. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd make you sit in the back of the room, but yeah.
That's okay.
She's been there before she knows.
I know where it's at. I've been down there. But, I really want to go. But my boss is leaving 8 o'clock in the morning for Texas.
Well, you won't know if you're there or not.
The farmers will know.
That's another issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, the only thing that we need to know about, I need to know about hotel rooms. We can arrange for something
I'll
later.
be driving.
You'd be driving back, up, down, and back?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. I've got one.
Yeah.
Josie made a reservation.
Yeah, we've got reservations for everybody, except Jane, and she's staying with family.
Yep.
So,
I do have a question. I have a place for us to eat tomorrow night, if you're interested.
Oh, cool.
Route 66.
Are you, I was gonna say, are we going?
I made a
for
reservation,
66?
if you want to.
While David was at the church?
No, I actually called Sarah tonight and
Okay.
said, tentatively, if the board says okay, do you want to eat at Baru? It's a French restaurant.
Can I go with?
No, John. That would.
Are you
Oh, you can
driving?
come if you want.
Are you driving? Because I don't know where it is.
It's out on 66th and University. It's really, you go from down, you just go out University to, if you get to the Hy-Vee on University, you went too far. Come back to
Okay.
66. It's right on the corner, north side of 66th and University.
What time?
It's a little small place. They got a table just for us.
What time?
7 bells.
and these are Belmond-Klemme grads, is that right?
Two of them.
Sarah is.
Sarah
And
is, and Alex Gabrielson is the sous chef there for David. And so Sarah Hill is, and her husband run the place, and then Alex Gabrielson, he graduated from here too, is the sous chef for David. And
They were
so-
just in town Sunday. We
Sunday.
had this big music celebration at our church. They catered it.
So
So we
she's
had-
all fired up to, she said, we'll take good care of the BK board if you come.
Okay.
I got kids off work early, just
You-
put that in.
Yes, you do that. That's right. It'll be, it's a great venue to eat, let me tell you.
What time did you make the reservation for?
7 bells.
7 p.m.
She said,
And I know French too, so I'll know if we're ordering snails or something then.
See, I said, I could do 6 or 7 or later, but I can't do 6:30. I said, that's good, because by the time we get done with the convention, we're tired, we want to refresh ourselves before we get there. 7 o'clock is a good time.
And you have to go visit the exhibits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, get all
And
the
you gotta go
goodies,
with
the free stuff.
Sephora, because she knows where all the
Well,
good
the
stuff.
exhibits won't be on tomorrow.
Aren't you going? Oh.
Oh, they won't, just on Thursday?
Yeah, I think the exhibits will just be on Thursday. However, there is a reception tomorrow evening.
Well, that's important.
Structure Architects, they did the big,
Yeah.
Yep.
the
Structure.
remodel in this building. And they've got a reception at Buzzard Billy's at 4:30.
Oh, that's right next door, yeah.
4:30 to 7.
Buzzard Billy. Okay. Eat their snacks. Actually, we might need a DD. Right, Sam? We need a DD.
It can be me.
Well, whatever. It might be a smart thing to do.
Yeah. Polk County, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've like way overshared on the annual convention. So, board comments and future agenda planning. The next board meeting is December 21st, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Sample agenda is on page 35.
Right.
Tentative agenda as of today.
Yeah, you'll have the stuff on the auditors. I'm interested in that, of course.
And,
Oh, that,
yeah.
and then you said Ed will have some stuff for us.
And the auditor, our current auditors, I was told that this is the last year for our current auditor, but our current auditor said, no, we've got another year under contract with you.
Really?
And I said, can you verify that, please? Because I don't know where our contract is, and I haven't heard back from them, so.
Yeah. Oh my.
Let's tell you what that means.
Do we, we've already decided to add the student representative to the school board, right?
Yes, that's
So we
done.
could take that out.
I think we can.
Yeah, pull that off.
That's what we want to
And
keep
we've
doing
already
it.
discussed the Wright County School Board retreat,
Right.
so that can go.
That's a done deal. The convention report, we went, we saw, we came home.
I want to hear as comprehensively hear from the FFA.
Yep, absolutely.
What would that be in Latin, Gary?
Vidi. Yeah. Wow, it's time to go home.
Yeah.
And back. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Teresa, second?
Yeah.
We are adjourned.
Aren't these fun meetings?
Yes,
Yeah, we're excited.